The graph represents the ratio relationship of the number of cups of oats to the number of cups of flour in a muffin recipe. Answer each question. We're going to write a ratio. Remember to use the colon. How many cups of oats are needed for 2 cups of flour? You can look at the graph to determine the answer to that piece. How many cups of flour are needed for 3 cups of oats? That one you might be able to fill in where it should fall on the graph. How many cups of flour are needed for 8 cups of oats? And what does the point 7, 10.5 represent? Well, the x-axis is the oats, so this is 7 cups of oats. And the y-axis is the cups of flour, so this y value is the cups of flour needed. This is a digital lesson, so go ahead and follow along on your computer if you have access to it. You decide to mow lawns this summer to earn money. First, you need to buy gasoline for your lawnmower. Identify the independent variable and the dependent variable. Let G represent the number of gallons of gasoline. So is the gasoline dependent or is the cost dependent? The cost depends on the amount of gas we purchase. Gasoline prices vary from day to day. So let's compare 2 gasoline prices. Choose a label for the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis is the independent variable, which we used gasoline. So our horizontal axis should be gasoline, and the vertical is the dependent variable, which we said was the cost. Here we have the cost of 5 gallons is $12.50, graphed in blue, and then the 5 gallons costs $15 is plotted in green. Here we see the depiction of what it would look like if you graphed on different axes. So if you swapped the cost to the x-axis and the gallons to the y-axis. But we see in this one that the green is more expensive for 5 gallons. So it's easier to read this graph because the green triangles are higher than the blue dots. Versus in this graph, the green is lower, even though the cost is more expensive for the same amount of gallons. So they depict the same data, but by placing the gallons on the independent variables axis, it's easier to read what's going on with their rates, being that the 5 gallons for $15 is more expensive or costs more than the other. You decide to buy gasoline at a rate of $2.50 per gallon. Complete the table. So we buy 1 gallon. You're going to do 1 times $2.50, which is $2.50. If we purchased 2 gallons, we would do 2 times $2.50. 2 times $2.50 would be $5. For 3 gallons, we need 3 times $2.50, which would be $7.50. 4 times 250 is $10, and 5 times 250 is $12.50. What is the ratio of the cost in dollars to the number of gallons in gasoline? The cost was mentioned first and then the gallons. So it's going to be 250 for the cost and 1 for the gallons. What is the value of the ratio? Remember, we divide 250 divided by 1 is 2.5. Write an equation that represents the relationship between the total cost in dollars and the number of gallons of gas. So we take the G, the gallons, and multiplied by 250, and that equals the costs. So 250 times G equals the cost, which is labeled with C. And then click Graph It. You might need to take out the multiplication symbol and turn it into just 2.50G to get it to graph. But you can see that the dots line up with the existing points. So where do you see the value of the ratio in the graph? Well, here I see a 2.5 and a 1. So the first point with the coordinates 1, 2.5 shows the value of the ratio. You are now ready to mow lawns and earn money. Let N represent the number of lawns mowed and T represent your total earnings in dollars. A ratio of your total earnings to the number of lawns mowed is 66 to 3. What does 488 represent? How do you know? Well, 4 would be the X value, so 4 lawns mowed. And 88 is the Y value of the coordinate. So it would be, you would earn $88. What do you notice about the coordinates of the draggable point and the ratio of your earnings in dollars to the number of lawns mowed? So if I move this draggable point, it forms a diagonal line because I can't move it up and down. It just goes along this diagonal line here. Pay close attention to what's happening here as well. As I move that point, it's matching the values from the coordinates. So we might say something along the lines of, the ratio uses the coordinates of the points and is written, 110 is the y value, so it's y, and then 5 is the x value, so y 2x. Use the slider to change the value of the ratio. What do you notice about the graph and the equation as the value of the ratio changes? So right now, the value of the ratio is 22. We have some points along this diagonal line. And in our equation, we see that value of the ratio represented here. As I change that, it changes the number that's being multiplied by n, and it also made my points steeper or less steep depending on what the ratio is. Describe the relationship represented in this table. Well, for one lawn mowed, they earn $25. For 2 lawns mowed, they earn $50. So if we were going to find the value of the ratio, we could do 75 divided by 3, which is 25, and that comes from that first line in the table. We could also check 50 divided by 2 is 25. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So the value of the ratio in this table is $25 per lawn mowed. Write an equation that represents the ratio relationship between your total earnings T in dollars and the number of lawns mowed in. When we saw in the last slide that the value of the ratio was multiplied by n, in our table, the value of the ratio is 25. You earn $25 per lawn mowed. That phrase per indicates that we are multiplying by the variable here. You wrote the equation T equals 25N to show the relationship between your total earnings in dollars and the number of lawns mowed. Identify the independent variable and dependent variable. I like to think of the dependent one first. The amount of money I earn depends on the amount of lawns that I mow. And then there's also a button up here where we can click verify, but I believe we have to put some points on there first. It does say graph the equation. So for 1 lawn mowed, we earn $25. For 2 lawns mowed, we earned $50. For 3 lawns mowed, we earned $75. With 4, we earned $100. For 5, we would earn $125. And then we can click verify. And it shows that we have our points all in the correct location. You want to determine the amount of time it takes you to mow lawns. You know that you mow at a rate of 50 minutes per lawn. Identify the independent variable and the dependent variable. We have lawns and minutes. Well, the amount of lawns that I mow depends on how much time I have. So the N depends on how many minutes I have. And it says I take 50 minutes per lawn. So let's think about it like this. If I were given the minutes, let's say it was 50 minutes, I would mow one lawn. If I had 100 minutes, I could mow 2 lawns. If I had 150 minutes, I could mow 3 lawns. So the way that I'm getting these is the lawns can be multiplied by 50 to get the, oh, actually I have the wrong variable there. That should be N for the lawns. I can multiply the lawns by 50 to get the minutes. Or I could divide the minutes by 50 to get the lawns. So we could write our equation as M divided by 50 and then we'll graph. So for 50 minutes, we can do 1 lawn. For 100 minutes, we can do 2 lawns. For 150, we can cut 3 lawns. 200 minutes, we can do 4 lawns. And 250 minutes, we can do 5 lawns. So by verifying, we have our points in the correct location. Sana writes the equation M equals 35N to represent the rate at which she mows lawns. Let N represent the number of lawns mowed and M represent the total minutes, the total time in minutes. Name the independent variable and name the dependent variable. The way that Sana has her equation written, the M depends on N because the N is going to get multiplied by 35. So M is the dependent variable in Sana's case. And N is the independent variable. So this is lawns mowed. And this is time in minutes. So if we had 1 lawn mowed, it would take Sana 35 minutes because 1 times 35 is 35. 2 times 35 is 70. So if we put 2 lawns mowed, it would take 70 minutes. 3 times 35 is 105. 4 times 35 is 140. And 5 times 35 would be 175. Then we will verify. And we have it written down correctly because our points are in the correct location. How many minutes does it take Sana to mow 1 lawn? It takes her 35 minutes to mow 1 lawn. How about 3 lawns? It takes her 105 minutes to mow 3 lawns. And how do you know? Well, 1 times 35 is 35. And 3 times 35 is 105. Lisa walks dogs during the summer to earn money. The graph represents the situation. Write an equation to represent the ratio relationship between Lisa's total earnings T in dollars and the number of walks W. Well, let's look. For one walk, it is $16. So that value of the ratio is 16, and she earns $16 per walk. Explain how you use the graph to help you write the equation. The value of the ratio can be found by using 16 divided by 1, which is 16. You decide to earn money by babysitting. You earn $11 per hour. Let H represent the number of hours and T represent your total earnings in dollars. Choose a model to help you find the answer. Choose a model to help you find the answer, I'm assuming, to the question. We're going to go with the equation. So I have the equation here, and it says, what are your total earnings when you babysit for 4 hours and 45 minutes? Well, we have it in hours. So 4 hours, we would replace the H with 4. So for 4 hours, that would be $44. But we're not just babysitting for 4 hours, we're babysitting for 4 hours and 45 minutes. So it's going to be more than $44. 45 minutes, there's 60 minutes in an hour. Let's reduce that fraction. I know 5 goes into both of those. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 12 is 60. But 9 and 12 have a 3 in common. 9 is 3 times 3, and 12 is 4 times 3. 3/4. Okay, so we know that we're going to work for 4 and 3/4 of an hour. We're replacing the H with that value. We could also write that as an improper fraction. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 more makes 19. And we're multiplying that by 11. We could put the 11 over 1 if that helps us. So the denominator here is going to be a 4, because 1 times 4, and 11 times 19 is 209. But we want to know how much money that is. So let's divide. 4 fits into 25 times, leaving us with 0, so bring down the 9. 4 fits into 9 twice, which is 8. That leaves us with 1. Bring down a 0. 4 fits into 10 twice, which is 8. That leaves us with 2. Bring down a 0. 4 fits into 20 5 times exactly. So she's going to earn $52.25. Explain how the equation helps you find the answer. I substituted 4 3/4 into the hours, which was H, and solved it for T, the earnings. That is the end of this digital lesson. Make sure you have any work shown in your book if you need it. And have a great rest of your day.